everybody, welcome to another episode of Nerds Drink Whiskey. Before I get into February's month of Jamesons,
2 shots of Jameson.
As you can see right behind me, I got 3 bottles of Jamesons. A long while back at the beginning of the show, I reviewed the basic Jamesons, and about a year or so ago, I did their one of the other Jamesons. I can't remember, I'm blanking on the name, but
I think Jameson Black Barrel is one of our very best whiskies.
Those are the 3 Jamesons that I have never reviewed, so I'm going to cover those in the month of February. But before we get into that, since Jameson's is an Irish whiskey and a much more eclectic brand, I figured I'd dive in a little bit into the history of Irish whiskey a little bit with this week's selection, which is, oops, here we go, Paddys. Now, Paddys is named after a former pitchman.
Oh, here it comes. Lots of explaining.
He worked for a company called, and they still have it on the bottle here, the Cork Distilling Company. Old Irish Whiskey is what it was called. So it had this big long name. And so Pat O'Flaherty would go around to all the different pubs, and he would pitch, and he'd be a brand ambassador, which we still have to the day, which none of those brand ambassadors ever contact me for some reason. Never have. I doubt they ever will. We're not cool enough. But he would go around and he would kind of give people free samples and kind of give them a taste of it. And of course, if you're giving out free whiskey, his popularity just became bigger and bigger and bigger as time went on. What started to happen was these bars and pubs would actually, they didn't want to write out this big long name that the whiskey had. So they would just say, send us more of Paddys. Send more Paddys whiskey. Send more Paddys whiskey. So all around Ireland, they would all refer to it as Paddys. So when Patrick O'Flaherty retired, they just gave up. They just, you know what? Our whiskey kind of already has an unofficial name. We might as well make it official. And they started calling it
Patty, another round.
Paddys. The name is now owned, sacrilege amongst many Irishmen, I'm sure. It is owned by Sazerac, an American company. But it's still, I believe, it is distilled in Ireland. That's why it's still allowed to be called Irish whiskey. It is known as the smoothest, the softest Irish whiskey out there. So let's give it a little bit of a pour. We got a nice standard glass here, a nice standard bottle opening. I like these bottle openings. They usually pour pretty nicely. If they get too fancy on the bottle, I've noticed it doesn't pour right. So anyways, here we go. Oops. We don't waste whiskey on this show. Not even a drop. So, put a cork back in there. So let's see what this whiskey has to offer on the nose.
Wow, right on the nose!
So there is a little bit of what I think is floral, slight touch of caramel, but definitely very subtle. Possible hints that this may be and it is, a $20 bottle of whiskey. So I'm kind of curious. Dark Helmet, do your thing.
Ludicrous speed!
Yeah, you can definitely tell this is a cheaper whiskey. It's not horrible. I mean, for a $20 whiskey, this is phenomenal. I would definitely, I'll finish the bottle, but it's a little under my price range. Yeah, it's got an interesting mouthfeel, really nice, pleasant initial taste. It almost comes off as, I can see where it has a reputation for being the softest Irish whiskey, which says a lot if you've had a few Irish whiskeys. But it does affect the mouthfeel, and it does affect the finish. It is kind of a little, it's a little antiseptic, and which means that maybe possibly the cut was a little bit too generous.
Cut!
They needed to be a little bit more aggressive on the cut, and I think that they would have a phenomenal whiskey. This is definitely not a redbreast. This is, I don't even know if this is the high-end Jamesons. So, and doesn't compare to the other three whiskeys I have behind me, which are Oregon Distillers whiskey, weeded whiskey, mash cut, and Bob Dylan's whiskey. So this is the cheaper whiskey, and you get what you pay for, and that's about all I can say with this. This is for you get a lot of bang for your buck with this one. It is really great, very, very tasty for $20 a bottle. But so if you need something cheap but good, I would say that this is a good, cheap Irish whiskey. But there's other better ones out there like Tullamore Dew, Redbreast, Jameson's, pretty much. But this is the cheap one. So give that to that cheap uncle that doesn't really have a fine palate, and he'll probably be, oh, Paddys, it's great, you know. And yeah, it's got a lot of great history to it. Sadly, not going to be one of my favorites. Probably not even one of my favorite $20 whiskeys. But yeah, if you need something cheap, it's not bad. Like I said, always sip, never slam. See you next week.